Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Advocate Rathi, Managing Partner, Lexidem and Rathi. I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar and on COVID-19 health and safety of lawyers. I would like to welcome our viewers and our esteemed panelists to the webinar. We are highly privileged to have with us Honorable Justice A.K. Sikri, former Judge Supreme Court of India, as our keynote speaker. We also have with us K.C. Mittal sir, Chairman Bar Council of Delhi. Shri Prakash Sharma sir, Member Bar Council of India. Shri Sanjay Rathi, Co-Chairman Bar Council of Delhi. We have with us a esteemed panelist of doctors who have joined us today. We have Dr. Anoop Gogia, Professor, Consultant, Ex-HOD, ICU Incharge and Coordinator Corona Unit, VMMC and Safdarjung Hospital, Delhi. We have with us Dr. T.S. Kler, Padma Bhushan Awardee, Chairman, PSRI Heart Institute. The moderator for today is Dr. Sunil Mittal, Director Asia Pacific World Foundation for Mental Health and Chairman Cosmos Institute of Mental Health and Behavioral Sciences. The webinar is being telecasted live on thislaw.com Facebook page as well. Today we also have with us Mittal Kanwar, Advocate practicing Supreme Court, actively engaged in policy and advocacy of mental health laws. Welcome, ma'am. Now I would like to invite K.C. Mittal sir to please give his welcome address.
I welcome Honorable Mr. Justice Arjun Sikri, who is the most respected, who has been the most respected judge of the apex court, and the bar has great respect for him. I also welcome Mr. Prakash Sharma, a dynamic and assertive leader of our bar. Mr. Sanjay Rathi, who is the co-chairman with us, is always helpful. And I welcome all the three doctors, Dr. Sunil Mittal, Dr. Kler, and Dr. Gogia, and I hope with their advice and guidance, we'll be able to achieve our target to keep COVID-19 away from all of us. I welcome Mittal Kanwar also, who is another moderator, and Devyans. Let me begin by saying, friends, and all of us, those who have joined today with us, we are facing a very difficult time. A situation which perhaps nobody would have visualized, nobody would have comprehended. And today, we are in a situation between devil and deep sea. We are not able to take a call as to how to proceed and what to do. Let me just give a little background with the things which have been happening, and I was making a note of how it started. The figures which I got from the media from 15th of February 2020 to 2nd of April 2020, they were reported 104 cases. And in 52 districts in 20 states, it has increased. Even after the total lockdown in the beginning. Today, the position as it has emerged, the latest figures are that as on 3rd May, there were 1,301 deaths that have taken place. And according to Saturday's figure, it is 1981. And Delhi, Maharashtra, and some other states are on the top of it. The way it is increasing, whether it's a red area or other areas, but the fact remains that there is no treatment so far. There is no vaccine so far. The only thing which we have been so far doing is the preventive measures and the self-regulated mechanism which we have adopted. But unfortunately, when there was some relaxation, the way we noticed the migrants on the roads, the way we noticed day before how the lives were there before the wine shops, they are totally broken the social system, social distance they were never maintained. Therefore, it is all the more important for all of us to see how do we proceed. And this I'm saying with the reference because most of the advocates, they have been sitting home, they're jobless, they are not going to the courts. They are definitely, when they don't go to the courts, there is a financial problem as well. They are keen to go to the courts, work and restore, get the work restored, get the normalcy and normal functioning of the courts. But the other side also we cannot ignore, and that is, even if there is a single case in the court, the way it will spread, nobody knows. It's invisible. Where the infection is, it's very difficult to find it out, whether it is because of droplet or it is because of sorry. The question therefore is, we have to be more and more careful about what is happening and how do we intend to proceed. I am making this because there is a lot of pressure. Other day I found that the Allahabad High Court issued certain orders for opening of Allahabad and Lucknow bench, and then those orders were withdrawn. Similarly, in the district courts, there are some orders to start functioning. In Delhi also, there is a situation, very precarious situations, and we are not able to take a consensus decision how to go about, because unless there is a full cooperation and the social distancing is maintained, we may not be able to go about it. But at the same time, another important aspect which we must and we cannot ignore is, how do we maintain the health of the people? How do we maintain and see that this doesn't spread? Even if one lawyer or one litigant, anybody coming to the courts, he catches this infection, it will create lot of problems. Therefore, the purpose of today's program is, and with the help of all the expert doctors, we may be in a position to come out with some concrete solutions and see to it that whatever we do, it must be a foolproof and perfect system to be adopted and to be followed by each and everyone, whether it's the lawyer or a litigant or anybody, whether it to be allowed to come to the court, whether chambers are to be opened or not to be allowed to be opened, and if at all it is done, how do we secure that this infection doesn't spread? Therefore, it's a complex kind of a problem and a situation which we are facing, where I'm sure there cannot be any simple answers. There cannot be any answer which one can say with perfection, yes, this would be foolproof. There has to be some kind of situation which we may face tomorrow. So with this little background, I hope with the help and advice of all of our panel members, we'll be in a position to come out and give some concrete answers so that the legal community in Delhi, they don't suffer. Nobody. Even if one member gets infected, it will be a problem for us. We would not like that to happen. Even if any court officer or a judge gets infected, we will not be in a position to tolerate it and go ahead with it. But at the same time, we have to evolve the system. I hope with the presence of all of your panelists and with their advice, we'll be able to have some better solutions. And of course, with the help of Justice Sikri. I think with this brief, we'll be able to come out with something concrete. Thank you, Divans.
Thank you so much, sir. In the meantime, trying to fix Sharma sir's video, I would like to ask Sanjay sir to give his comments on today's topic.
Oh, actually, there is a problem with my video. So we have to do
your video was visible, but it was a bit key.
Something has gone wrong again. So we will have to do with audio only. So
I just called you. Sanjay, in the meantime, can continue. Sanjay sir, please. I'll just fix your video.
All right. If it is possible, kindly do it.
Yeah,
because I have another.
Sanjay sir, please continue.
Good afternoon, Lordship. Good afternoon to all learned panelists, and good afternoon to my viewers. So today's topic, health and safety of lawyers, as chosen for to be discussed in this webinar. The details have been given by Chairman Sir, and I want to add one thing, that safety and welfare is the foremost and primitive concern of Bar Council Delhi. As from the day one, Bar Council is connecting with the government authorities. Bar Council is connecting with the Chief Justice of Hon'ble Supreme Court, Chief Justice Delhi High Court, thereby providing all the suggestions as to how the courts could be made functional, how a new normal could be adapted by the legal fraternity. I do say that closing of courts for long in itself is a self-destructive, as legal valuable rights of the citizens are involved, and honorable courts are the strongest pillars to safeguard the fundamental rights of the citizens. Their cases which are pending unconverted are converting in a backlog, and the cases in itself are in quarantine. So in these situations, as the lockdown which is being continued till 17th of May, so what will be the position, how the courts are little bit functioning in urgent matters, whether in these situations, even after the closing of this lockdown, the lawyers who are also the officers of the court, who are also the persons taking challenge by accepting the grievances and putting it forward in the honorable courts for the litigants. So their safety, their health is the major and vital issue which is to be considered by the authorities and even by the honorable courts by taking the administrative decisions. I personally feel that the people from the legal fraternity cannot at all be allowed to be thrown in the fireball of this pandemic, when till today there is not a single measure to be taken or disclosed that this would be the platform which can be used. I feel to make it more familiar, functioning of court, because speedy justice is also very vital issue. So things are required that the functioning of the court shall, if opted to be started, then in that situation, first of all, the government authorities have to take decision that the litigant should not be allowed for the time being to have an entry in the respective courts. Advocates who are coming, their safety is also to be taken note, as it has been suggested to the respective authorities that sanitization tunnels should be there at the gates, and the gates which are there in the respective courts, there should be a single entry so that the advocate who is entering from that area, he could be sanitized. Even what further I feel, that at each 100 steps, there shall be sanitization stations in the respective courts. And the matters which are, earlier we were seeing 50 to 60 matters are listed in a court, those may be reduced to 5 or 10 cases, and prior consent of the advocates are required to be taken so that no matter would be adjourned for the absence of a lawyer. We being part of the authority governing advocates, we will make it sure that the advocates will change their mind in order to participate in the cases which are being listed after the consent, so they may not be allowed to be dragged for want of their presence. So in order to have a proper functioning, the foremost criteria regarding the health and safety of lawyers is to be opted. Various points are to be considered, And in these situations, then only the functional of a court from a small cases, it could be taken up, and later on, whether the situation comes in which way, that is to be cogitated by the authorities, and then only the normal way should be functioned. No doubt, in the present time, e-courts which were allowed, where the filing is also been taken, not in few or in all cases, the challenge is there, but in this present sphere of time, the fraternity is available to accept this challenge, so that the e-filing, virtual court hearing, and all these could be done. The Bar Council, being the statutory authority, is obligatory that we should give training to the advocates who are not much familiar. And similarly, at the same point of time, it is an obligation on the part of the administrative side of the respective courts and of the government authorities that training stations should also be made available in the respective courts with the timing schedules, so that the advocate could be well versed with the filing of e-court, could be well versed with the situation, how to come and meet that situation in dealing with the cases during the adjudication of those cases. So for the time being, the evidence matters and all that, those can be taken up as a 2 or 3 cases. Written submissions may be called by way of electronic form, or where the proper hearing is required or it is mandated, then that may be done by way of providing the glass shield courts. Those glass shield courts can be sanitized after each matter. And if 10 matters are taken, then it is possible for the authorities to do that. Those things can be done. And by virtue of doing all these deeds, the safety of lawyers would certainly will be safeguarded, and they will be protected, and it will be helpful in the making the speedy justice to the litigants. So
Thank
these
you,
are
Sanjay, for your
primary
precious views. Prakash sir will be joining us through audio only. Prakash sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, sir. Please continue with your thoughts.
I'm sorry, my honorable guest, I'm not being able to connect on video. There is something wrong with my laptop video. Honorable Justice Sikri, Mr. K.C. Mittal, Mr. Sanjay Rathi, Dr. Gogia, Dr. Kler, Dr. Sunil Mittal, and Devanshu Rathi, the anchor of this show. I can see Mrinal Kamar also. The question is, and the issue being deliberated is health and safety of lawyers. Actually, when it comes to courts, it's a question of health and safety of everybody, the lawyers, the judges, the litigants, the court staff, everybody visiting the court. Now, the question uppermost in the mind of every advocate, every judge, litigant, and court staff is what after 17th of May 2020, when the third phase of lockdown is over. That is the biggest question now. Are we going to have a normal functioning of courts, or with the certain precautions or due care, the court functioning can be started? Indications are that yes, the courts to some extent in a restricted manner are going to be started with certain cares and precautions. Now friends, no matter what precautions we take, no matter how careful we are, it's going to be fraught with risk. Nobody can deny this fact. We have eminent doctors on our panel today. So the risk factor will always remain there. Now, the biggest challenge in the functioning of court, because we know the courts in our country, right from Supreme Court to the lowest court. Now there is the issue is crowd of lawyers, crowd of litigants. We have seen in the Supreme Court corridors, lawyers and advocates walking shoulder to shoulder. And we have seen lawyers rubbing their shoulders in the lower courts, in the high court, everywhere. So that is the biggest challenge, because we have to maintain the protocol of social distancing. Now in this crowd, when this is the scenario about crowd of lawyers and litigants in the courts, how do we manage this crowd? That is the biggest challenge. Now, in my view, I had prepared a note. I had shared the copy with Mr. K.C. Mittal also. To begin with, we can have a restricted working in the courts. Now, restricted working would mean we can have only urgent and most urgent matters. For example, on the criminal side, matters involving bail and individual liberty of those matters can be taken up. On the civil side, injunction matter, stay matters, they can be taken up, and others matters can wait. Date in advance can be given in other matters so that litigants don't have to come to the court to know about their dates, date of hearing. Even lawyers who are not to appear in urgent matters, either it is civil or criminal, they can stay home and they need not come to the court. So my suggestion was that we can have only urgent matters on the civil and criminal side both, and to begin with for some time, say for a 10 days or for 2 weeks, when we are a little comfortable with these urgent matters, we can think of starting argument matters in criminal and civil side. Now, a advisory had come from the High Court that civil matters and criminal matters where arguments are pending and matters which are very, very old, say 25 to 30-year old, the lawyers can make a joint request and the matter would be taken up by video conference hearing. Now, my apprehension and my experience is that particularly in civil matter, because I am a civil lawyer, one party is always interested in delaying the matter. So getting joint request of both the lawyers for hearing of a final matter would be impossible. Now, similarly, the 80% of litigation in this country pertains to trial courts. Now, trial would involve evidence, taking of evidence of witnesses. Now, evidence similarly would not be possible either by virtual court or by video conferencing. It will be dangerous to have evidence through these two modes. Even in High Court rules and orders in almost every state, there is a provision of video conference, evidence being taken by video conferencing. But then you have to have a coordinator at the end of the witness. Now, how do we, in this condition of pandemic, expect that a coordinator would visit the house of the witness and be with him in order to satisfy the protocol given in the rules and orders for taking evidence? The court, the judge has to then watch the demeanor of the witness, and there are so many things. So recording of evidence by video conferencing, by virtual court is something we should not think about. And it is only argument matters, that too with consent of the parties, and most urgent and urgent matters that can be taken up through virtual court or through video conferencing. Now, when we come to health and safety of lawyers, we have eminent doctors present today in this program. Bar Council of India had received an advisory on the administrative side from the Supreme Court of India, and the advisory was regarding the dress code of lawyers. And it was advised that there is some medical counseling, that the wearing of gown and the coat should be dispensed with, because they can be potential carrier of virus. These gowns and these coats are not washed every day, and it is only once in a few months that they get to be washed. So they can be potential danger in this pandemic situation. So the Bar Council of India has passed a resolution. Today it is going to be formalized in today's meeting, and we are dispensing with wearing of gown and coats right from Supreme Court to the lowest court for a period of 3 months, and rules are being amended in that regard. So the real issue, my dear friends, would be when we come to health and safety, the 3 protocols which everybody knows, and this lockdown has taught us many things. At least we have learned the discipline of social distancing, and then wearing of mask, and washing hands every now and then. So these 3 things, I think, have become part of life of almost every citizen of the country, rather the world. So with this learning, if we go to the court, I think if we are able to manage the crowd in the court, crowd of lawyers, crowd of litigants, then this functioning of the court can of course be started, because it is almost now 45 to 50 days that we are sitting idle at home, and the entire system has come to a grinding halt. So we need to start it, and we will have to put our heads together. The real challenge would be minimize the crowd, and that can only be possible by minimizing the cause list of the court. There is no other solution. Now, friends, thank you very much. I have another video conference. We have a meeting of Bar Council of India. I'll take your leave. And once again, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon for not being on the video. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for telling us what steps Bar Council of India is taking against fighting of coronavirus. Now, I would like to bring in our moderator, Dr. Sunil Mittal, to take forward the proceedings webinar.
Thank you, Devansh. Firstly, thank you, Bar Council of Delhi for organizing such an important webinar today. I think this is a proactive stuff from the Bar Council along with the latest law, because keeping one step ahead of this virus becomes extremely essential. And then preemptive measures and what has been advocated throughout as what one can do becomes central to prevention. And of course, we have a very eminent jurist here, Justice A.K. Sikri. And good afternoon, sir. So while we proceed with the discussion with my colleagues here, Dr. Anoop Gogia, who is the ex-head of Department of Anesthesia at Safdarjung Hospital and currently in charge. He set up the COVID-19 unit. He is in charge for the COVID-19 unit. So he's going to talk right from the ground what's happening there. And Dr. T.S. Kler, Padma Bhushan, one of the most awarded cardiologists of the country, who is not just a cardiologist, but also contributes to public health. So his understanding and insights into what can be distilled for use in the legal system and in the courts. And of course, the opening remarks by Advocate Prakash Sharma ji, by Advocate Sanjay, Rathi, and Advocate Mittal have all set out the agenda that needs to be addressed. What's happening in the courts, what's happening around us, and what is happening in the coronavirus. And of course, we know that this virus, this puny little thing, has brought the whole world to a grinding halt. Firstly, we live with viruses and bacteria in our body. Viruses are a part of us, probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. But then there can be viruses which are dangerous, like we have seen COVID-19, and in case viruses and coronaviruses by and large, which even, or some other rhinoviruses which cause a common cold, are very common. But this COVID-19, the new coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, is something which mankind has no immunity for, because it is foreign. And it's something which is new that's come up, and therefore it's a challenge for humankind. And at one end, of course, the outrage, the outbreak it's brought about, Mahamari, the pandemic across the world. And we have figures which are very high. We're going to discuss how to interpret figures. Figures which are very high, with Indian figures today morning, almost 63,000 people tested positive, and 1/3 having recovered, and almost 2,000 some deaths, 1,900 some sort of 2,102 deaths as of today morning. So that's a large number. And then, but if you look at the world figures, a little over 4 million diagnosed with COVID-19, and deaths are about 280,000. That's a large figure out of that huge number which is tested. The challenge that it has brought for us, firstly, let's understand what is coronavirus pandemic. Then we'll go through this over the next 25 minutes on understanding the virus and what can be done to prevent it, and how it can be used in the courts and in the legal profession, what the learnings could be from the health profession, from other professions, and from across the world. So we'll begin by Dr. Anoop Gogia, since he's on the front line. So Anoop, why is this coronavirus so dangerous? Why so much concern? Why so much of panic and fear? Why is this so? I mean, we have had viruses all along, but what is so new about this?
Good afternoon, everybody, the panelists and Dr. Mittal. The coronaviruses are not new to the humankind. We have seen SARS, we have seen MERS, we have seen Ebola viruses. They are all RNA viruses. So this is another coronavirus which is there. The difference between this pandemic and with other viruses is that it is very communicable, and another thing is that there may be asymptomatic carriers, which is so different from others, and the mortality, which is different in different phases. If you see the worldwide, it is around 3%, but in some of the areas it is very high. And also the people who are high risk cases, so-called with the comorbidities, the death rate can be very high in these cases. The problem is that we don't know when and how one can get so easily infected and transmit also the virus to others. This is the main thing about this virus. That is what which is very scary thing about this virus.
So the high infectivity, the
Yes.
fast spread, the asymptomatic carriers,
Yes.
whom you can't recognize, you can't, make out that so-and-so is running fever or so-and-so is having a cough. So asymptomatic carrier who's shedding the virus. And that's why the global pandemic and the global concerns. But knowing this, that there can be asymptomatic carriers, and since there is a debate about this, Anoop, what is your view? Is there community transmission that's happening? Because that is going to be the concern of all professions.
See, the community transmission has already begun, according to me, because you can see the hotspots and these areas, which are actually the burden of coronaviruses, which has spread to the neighborhood. We have tried to restrict them into the hotspots, but these areas are there. How come the hotspots have been created if there is not community spread? So community spread is already begun. We have now getting cases who have almost no history of contact, and still they are positive. So I really think.
So people are acquiring it from some people who are either symptomatic or asymptomatic.
Yes.
People who are around them.
Yes.
So either they have been touched, or see, one of course is somebody coughs in your face.
Yes.
Or there is a droplet infection within 2 meters. Somebody is coughing, sneezing, and there are 2 meters.
Mm-hmm.
There is also evidence that the micro droplets may stay in the air for the next 2 hours.
And also through the papers, bromides, the things which you are buying from the market, the vegetable vendors. See, these things have really come into the picture.
So the community spread is not going to be just through the droplet, but it is going to be through a medium like a fomite.
Yeah, that is what I was thinking about. The advocates and the judges, they have to wear so much of thing which cannot be worn every day. So that is one thing they should.
So the bar counseling initiative to look at dress
Yes.
change. Because
Yes.
the gowns, the coats can't be washed every day. The gowns touch, and we recommend not wearing loose clothes if you want to avoid picking up the infection.
See, we have done away with white coats in the corona area. We advocate that they should wear the minimum things. Even the belts and the purses and those things should not be taken inside.
Right. So watches, bells, purses, they should not be taken inside.
So only now most of the things are in your mobile, which unfortunately we cannot tell them not to take. They usually take it with them, but they are being sanitized. Yes.
Right. So that means doing away with all paraphernalia.
Yes.
Which can be a fomite, that means a carrier of the virus.
Yes.
Like files, papers, also dresses. So which means that courts and the legal system has bundles and bundles of files and papers.
Yes.
So the solutions have to be found.
This is the time to switch to computers.
Right. So switching to computers, so technology becomes very important and the challenge that technology may pose becomes really important.
Yes.
In this context, I would go back to Advocate Rathi. So you think it will be possible to have all the e-filing, e-processes, the sort of e-hearings, or there are challenges which are going to be there?
Very true, Doctor. Now this present sphere of time, it is a challenge before the legal fraternity to adapt it, and not overnight the changes would come. But in the other nearby countries, neighboring countries, or what we are seeing, that this challenge has to be there by having a knowledge of its use. As I had stated earlier, that this session of training shall be conducted by Bar Council Delhi, and even in the courts there shall be this program which the advocates can regularly attend. So this challenge on one day is to be taken up. And not only this, in Delhi, the virtual hearing regarding the prisoners was there. The remands were extended. That was a pilot project. And that pilot project was found to be good, and it is being maintained in a good position. Even in our Delhi High Court, we are seeing that there are the courts which are being run as a paperless court. So it is only a matter for us to be familiar with this functioning, and this e-court and virtual court hearings are now mandatory for legal profession or in this legal world or for other institutions as well. And as said by Dr. Gogia, carrying of this belt, purses and all that, we have to opt for this because this is a challenge, and this challenge is always to be met out by taking it as a challenge. So we should involve ourselves and we should opt for all these things.
Right. So it is like it is said that you have to always be cautious that the person around you may be passing the disease to you, even if he's not coughing. And secondly, that if I am carrying the disease, I should not pass it on to my environment and to people around me. So it becomes a responsibility. So while there is protection at one end, there is also responsibility. I may be an asymptomatic carrier. I can't go for a test every week. And therefore, it becomes essential that I wear a mask and do not contaminate the environment or put my colleague, my family at risk, and vice versa too. So with this, I think the key point that comes up is the communication regarding this, the education of advocates and all the litigants, because it's a complex system. You have the courtroom, which requires to be looked after. You have the judges who have to be present there all the time. They sit in that courtroom, and the courtroom can become an environment full of viruses. The second is the litigators, the lawyers who are there, and then the litigants. So I think at all levels, and the public who may be there, the media who may be coming to the court. So at all levels, some restrictions are going to be required, which is a tough challenge. And that's going to require a lot of, like you said, initiative in terms of training, enforcing systems, information, education, and communication material.
Doctor,
if I'm a litigant, Mr. Mittal, please, what is the Bar Council's?
Yeah, of course, we have not taken any final decision so far, but I want to ask you a small question. In the morning, we get newspapers. Today or yesterday, I was reading about droplets. I think on the newspaper also, it carries. And what it said was it's for 2 minutes or what, something like that. The details were given, where it can be for 1 hour, it can be for 6 hours, the droplets for 1 day or 2 days. Now, is it that the paper, basically, would it carry, and if so, for how long? And is it difficult to carry the paper along?
Right. So, Anoop, maybe you can take that question, and then we'll go to Dr. Kler for his comments on what we have discussed so far.
Very, very good question. In fact, when we made the isolation first, and the few patients, most of them were foreigners initially, and some of our people who had come from abroad, they were staying in Safdarjung hospital. They wanted a newspaper to come. And this was the first thing I said, that we will not allow the newspaper to be there because it acts as a fomite. Because as long as up to 6 hours, the viruses can be there on these papers. So that's a very good question and pertinent one. Most of us have switched on to your e-papers nowadays. I think the other people should do that also.
Right. So
if they are so keen.
So we have to be cautious to be able to prevent it at every step.
So we'll stop the morning newspaper now.
So also the notice is being sent from one lawyer to the other. The files, you have to look at digitization.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
If I can say, capital is going to be required. So Dr. Kler, now we have been just discussing about the pandemic. We have just been talking about what is happening and how the courts are going to be affected. Now, from you chair a large department. And how do you think learnings from hospital systems can be transposed into the courts? And what are your comments on what has been said so far?
First of all, Dr. Mittal, it is good afternoon to everybody. It's a great honor to discussing with the legal fraternity of the country, including Justice Sikri and many other eminent people. Thank you very much for including me in this webinar. I have some general comments. First of all, I would say that I don't know whether Corona is a good thing or bad thing. Of course, everybody is saying it's very bad thing, very bad thing, very bad thing. But I have a different take on that. I think it may be good for humanity. I think we were all of us, we had adopted a wrong path in our life. It is a nature's reminder to us that, my dear friends, you need to stop and think what you do in life, what is your purpose of life. So that's my own thinking. And I think we were doing many things wrong. We destroyed our environment. We destroyed the human relationships. We became mechanical. We became totally mechanical. We became commercial, whether it's a doctor or a advocate or anything. Perhaps we all need to think back about humanity. That's my first comment. The second thing is that coming to the particularly the webinar today is about the safety of the legal fraternity in the time of a pandemic, and particularly after the lockdown was taken out. See, one thing I have learned in life is that the most precious commodity in the world is the time. And somehow or the other, we all waste a lot of time. Coming to the courts, like a lot of time is wasted. Some witness doesn't come, some advocate doesn't come. So I think first of all, the courts have to develop a mechanism that this time is not wasted. Somehow or the other, the law should be such that people cannot be absent on that particular day, which usually people do, delay the justice and delay that carries on and on. Then only advocates who have to depose in the court, they should be allowed on that particular day. And that also maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes before that case and 45 minutes after that case. After that, that advocate is supposed to leave the court. So this will decrease the number of people present in the court at that time. And as some of the friends pointed out, I think initially the number of cases have to be limited, how to learn how the distancing can be maintained in the courts. So the idea is to get into the court complex as minimum people as possible, and they all have to mandatory have a mask on them, and then sanitization, and if you touch papers, for example, after that you have kept the file, done with the case, come and wash your hands, which is not the habit in general we have. Even the doctors, for example, they use stethoscope on one patient, and the second patient, third patient, they don't wash their hand. So that is what we need to learn here. Now coming to the gowns, I think gowns is an old useless tradition. Gowns and the coats, I think they should be permanently abolished. In fact, the coats, for example, the UK has banned the coats, white coat of doctors, because it is proven clearly that the white coat carry bacteria and infection to the other patients. So similarly, these coats and gowns cannot be washed every day. so they are dirty, they carry bacteria. It is absolutely useless according to me that we should make. वो भी दूसरी बात ये भी है कि जो इंडिया में कॉमन कहा जाता है कि काले कोट से बचो और सफेद कोट से बचो, वो भी शायद हमारा स्टिग्मा कम हो जाएगा। भी डॉक्टरों को कहते हैं काले कोट, चीटे कोट से बचो सफेद से, और वकीलों को बोलते हैं काले कोट से बचो। कि मैं कहता हूं कि अगर नहीं पहनेंगे तो कम से कम लोग शायद हमारे कुछ फ्रेंडली हो जाएंगे। एंड इट इज नॉट नीडेड, आई थिंक इट इज टोटली नॉट नीडेड। नाउ मोर एंड मोर processes have to be brought in now, by where the many cases can be dealt with the video conferences and e-courts, for example. Of course, it will take some time because there are many advocates who are of my age, who are old. They are not so familiar with the computer systems. But I think all of us now, we have to learn the computer, the e-way of life. It is very clear that the life will never be same again after the COVID-19 now. All of us need to understand that we need to, everybody has to learn, चाहे आप 80 साल के हो, चाहे 70 है, चाहे आप 15 साल के, you have to learn the computers and how to be, conduct your life through the and ultimately I think it will be a great idea to make it paperless. For example, paperless hospital, paperless court. Lot of paper is wasted. We destroy the environment by cutting trees. So there are a lot of advantages which can come by the technology in the long run. Now my last comment is after 17 May, as I told you that the COVID will increase in numbers. I have no doubt about it. But again, the thing is that perhaps this lockdown has sensitized us, most of us. It has told us how to prevent, how to keep distancing. And of course, there are many people who are not with so much of wisdom in this country that they still break the rules. And the people who are breaking the rules, I think they should be punished very, very, very clearly, no doubt about that. People should understand that they are not only, it's not a question of that they are threat to themselves, they are threat to others. So which is, you can, आप खुद मरो कोई बात नहीं, लेकिन लोगों को क्यों मारते हो आप? That should be very clear, that it should be punishable thing, that if somebody breaks the law, should be punished properly. Now my last part of the discussion will be basically, because I'm a cardiologist, I would like to say a few things about heart disease in the pandemic, coronavirus. Now, first of all, we should know that the coronavirus has mainly, it has a lot of cardiovascular manifestation. People can come with acute heart attack. Now, this acute heart attack is of two types. One is the so-called pseudo heart attack. Now, what happens? People have chest pain. People will come to the emergency. They have ECG में changes हैं, suggestive of myocardial or heart attack. But when we take them for angiography, you don't have blockage. So this is pseudo heart attack. This basically occurs because of the myocarditis, inflammation of the muscle, of the heart muscle. Now there are, then second group is that there is a true heart attack, and corona has been known to aggravate the chances of developing acute heart attack. Why? Because corona infection increases the viscosity of the blood. Suppose you have 80% or 70 or 90% blockage in one of the heart arteries. So because of the increased viscosity or coagulability of the blood, a clot can form there and you can have a true heart attack also. The thirdly, because again there is a increased coagulability, so you can develop clots in the leg veins. And this is the leg veins, clot can go to lungs and it can produce what is called as a pulmonary embolism. So thromboembolic phenomena are also important part of the manifestation of the corona infection. Third, lastly, because I'm also electrophysiologist, now these people get a lot of heart arrhythmias. Their ECGs may show a lot of rhythm problems, particularly rhythm problems coming from the lower chamber of the heart, like extra beats, ventricular tachycardia, and many of the seriously infected patients. For example, they were recovering, but then they had a sudden cardiac death. Why? The sudden cardiac death occurs because of the serious arrhythmia coming from the lower chamber of the heart. So patients who are even recovering from a very significant COVID infection, they need to be monitored for some time before we can say that they are safe. Now, lastly, how should heart patients should conduct themselves? it is very clear that people who have got significant heart disease, they are at a more risk of getting infection, number one. Number two, they got more serious infection. Number three, their chance of dying are more. Now, when I say it is not valid for every heart patient. For example, if you have just a blood pressure, your heart function is normal, then you are not in that category. But people where, for example, because of previous heart attack, heart function, pumping capacity has has decreased, or people with the congestive heart failure, people with the diabetes in association, uncontrolled hypertension. These patients, for example, some people have on devices. Many of our patients have some kind of heart failure devices like ICDs and cardiac resynchronization therapy. Those patients are certainly more prone to get infection. So they must be very, very careful. In fact, I tell them, don't get out of the house till the situation improves. And another thing is that even these patients have more mortality if they get the infection. So they have to be very, very particular. So what we have done in my hospital is that we have encouraged more and more video consultations, and people, some or the other, me and my colleagues, we are now very open, liberal. Anybody can call us on WhatsApp or on a phone. In fact, all this service is free for the time being, but I am sure that in the future, some kind of mechanism will be developed where doctors can be compensated for these e-consultations, and this is happening already. And there's another thing which I want to share, Dr. Mittal, that what I have learned in this very short time is that in fact 80 to 85% of the patients you can treat on the video consultation by remote telemedicine. They don't have to come to the hospital. If you can get their data, you can talk to them, and you see their investigations, and 80% patients or 85%, they don't have to come. It is a great thing. For example, a patient from Garhwal, patient from Uttarakhand, he doesn't have to come to Dr. Kler to Delhi, and I can solve his problem sitting at home. I think it is a great service to the patient as well as to the society. It will decrease the wastage of time, and it will increase our productivity in every direction. So I think Corona has, to me at least, has taught me that time can be utilized in a much better way. Wastage of time has to be avoided. The unnecessary meetings, crowding, people running here and there. I know a consultant in London. He visited USA 58 times in 1 year to attend some useless medical conferences. So now I'm sitting at home and I'm talking to so many people. I don't have to go out. So the technology, I think we can use for the good of humanity rather than posting useless message on the WhatsApp to others. With all these remarks, I thank all of you, and I will be willing to answer questions.
Can I just have 2 minutes? Dr. Mittal? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
Now, I just wanted to point out 2 things. One, almost 45, 47 days now, we have been sitting at home doing nothing. Sometimes on one bed, sometimes this side, or watching the TV, sometimes in the kitchen, or it has some effect on the individual or the families. I'm not saying that, of course, it may not be kind of as a depression as such, but yes, somebody do feel a situation where as long as the man is not working, you can understand his position. So there may be some people having maybe diabetic, some may be anxiety, some may be having age more than 65, as has been repeatedly said. I would like, if you can give us some tips for the benefit of the advocates, those who are at home, and we don't know what happens on 17th, but in the meantime, we have to keep ourselves fit and normal so that nothing happens in the meantime. Number one. Number two, as far as the court functioning is concerned, courts, how it functions, you are very well aware of. The litigants are there, the clerks are there, apart from the advocates, there are different gates, the chambers are there. if you can point out some precautions and give us tips that yes, do this, do that to maintain good health, I think that will help, and we may be able to circulate those advisories for those who are at home, or those, even if the court starts functioning, those advisories would be helpful to all of us. And I think that may be a good thing for all of you, the doctors, to do for us. You may consider this so that we take care of at both the situations. Thank you.
That's a good idea, Sunil. I think we can, between you and me and Dr. Gogia, we can make some small document and we can email to these people. But I think fundamentally, basically, Mittal Sahab, if I have to say very brief, that all the people sitting at home, they have to do some exercise. Some exercise is very, very important. And I think yoga is a great virtue. If people who are not doing, they should start learning, and some kind of meditation, positive thinking, listening to some good music, and then talking to your good friends will keep the morale up. I think mental upliftment, Dr. Sunil Mittal will clarify further, is perhaps very, very important in this difficult time.
I think, thank you, Dr. Kler, thank you, Mr. Mittal. I think what we have covered so far is very, very important, and there are 4 or 5 important thoughts or parallel conversations which have occurred, which are raised. The first is the fact that from a cardiologist perspective, coronavirus can present as cardiac disease. It can present as a pseudo heart attack. It can present as a arrhythmia, palpitation, a change in the heart's rate. So do not ignore it. Second, that if you have a comorbid serious heart condition, a significant heart condition, then you are more at risk of catching the virus, having more complications, and unfortunately more deaths, because comorbidity is one of the factors, which is either heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, other metabolic disorders, or compromised lung state for smokers, compromised liver for alcohol users, so many things which predispose us to infection. So one of the preventive methods when we come to is going to be looking at how to avoid substances, because that is also an extremely important aspect. The second thing that the conversation that has come up is, of course, we are going to look towards the end at the tips and what can be done to prevent. The more important question, and that's the biggest question, I think, that has been raised by Dr. Kler, that is it time to re-examine our lives altogether, not just re-examine our professions, the way we function, re-examine the whole human life. Because we have had a hedonistic world, hedonistic lifestyle, fast-moving, consumer-oriented lifestyle, and here we have just been drawn to a grinding halt. We are seeing airlines have crashed, the stock markets have crashed, the manufacturing process have crashed, the GDP growth is down to 0.25 as per Modi's and may go into minus. So what does it all mean? What it means is a huge, bigger question that do we need to re-examine the direction human life is going in, from a hedonistic to more a eudaimonic lifestyle, which is more preservative, conservative, not conservative, orthodox necessarily, but not wasting resources, environment friendly, living in harmony. I think that's one of the largest questions that this pandemic has raised, and therefore life is never going to be the same after the pandemic. So we need to adapt. Now coming back to the whole question, as we move along with the medical impact, the mental health impact and solutions, and then of course, what can be done, which we'll request at that time Honorable Justice Sikri for his views and comments on amalgamating the medical advice and the legal concerns, how we can put it together, is coming back to Anoop, we have spoken about death rates.
Yes.
We have spoken about figures. I think since not all of us are experts, we need to understand from you and from Dr. Kler, what does it all mean? We'll keep it brief, but is death rate, you mentioned SARS, you mentioned the Middle East respiratory syndrome. The SARS first, that is 2003, had in people over 60 years of age, the death rate was 55%. More than half would die. Mm-hmm. In the Middle East respiratory syndrome 2012, the death rate totally, whatever your age, was 35%. So more than 1/3 would die. Here the death rate is only 3%. So like you said, it's the high infectivity, but the death rates are low. That means even if you're going to get it, there are more chances of survival. And would I be right on saying that, unless there was comorbidity and one was careless? Anoop, would you comment on that?
Yes, the various indices which are taken into account is the case fatality rate,
Yes.
which is the number of positive cases versus number of the people you have tested, isn't it?
Right.
So, case fatality rate varies according to the number of the people who have been tested. We don't know because our testing rate is down, so case fatality rate may not be the right index. Another thing is crude death rate, which is taken as the death rate versus the population. And if you take 130 crores of our population with 2,000 deaths, it may be negligible.
So maybe more people are dying of tuberculosis, more people are dying of
Yeah,
heart disease, more people are dying
yeah,
of other infections.
yes. So you see, in all these indices, the denominator is very, very important.
Yes.
But the figure which we are getting of total number of deaths due to COVID, that is one very important index. See, and as compared to US, as compared to the Europe, our total number of deaths are less.
So what are the reasons, Anoop? What do you think?
It signifies that our disease is relatively of milder character. One. Number two, we have some inherent protection from the disease because of already infections which we had, or because of BCG vaccination and a malarial infection for which we have been taking the chloroquines and other medications. So there are a number of protective figures which are there in Indian population. That is why our mortality so far is less. So that's a great encouraging sign for us that the mortality may not be there. But in predisposed individuals, it is still high. And the people who are ventilatory dependent, those who require ventilation, the mortality is as high as 86%. Even in Western figures, in our figures, it is more than 90%. Those
Right.
people,
so which means if 10 people go on a ventilator, only one is going
yes, yes. So that is the truth. So that you should take in account that it should not progress to that level.
So what it means is for healthcare workers or for lawyers and judges, people who have got other infections, other comorbid conditions, heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, pulmonary disease, like if they've been smokers, or alcohol-related liver disease, their possibility of dying would be much higher.
Much higher. And another thing which Dr. Kler was pointing out was that the cardiac ailments. If I was reading today the one of the description by Dr. Peter Pyatt.
Oh yes, the director of the London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene,
yes.
Who's a COVID-19 survivor.
And he gave exactly a beautiful description of how he behaved in ICU, and when he came out, he had another attack of atrial fibrillation which was to be regulated. He had a pneumonic patch which had to be treated. So remember, these sequelae would be there.
Right. So he had a heart rate of 170, which he mentioned.
Yes, atrial fibrillation he had. So don't get away with this idea that once you are okay, everything will be fit and fine.
So that means morbidity may be 3%.
Yes.
The mortality is 3%, but
morbidity may continue.
And other conditions.
Yes, they may present with renal failure. They may present with the cardiac problems, as Dr. Kler was mentioning, which is very, very significant.
So thank you. So thank you for this. Now, before we move, because we're going to be out of time, there is one concept, and then we will move to the mental health issues and the what requires to be in action. There is this whole talk about flattening the curve. They whole talk about the herd immunity. So I understand that flattening the curve means an epidemiological strategy, the public health strategy that you delay.
Yes.
That means you put a lockdown, you delay the spread.
Yes.
You contain it by making it a lockdown, you delay it. You research what vaccines, what treatments can work, and then you mitigate that. Then you look at all the treatments. So you contain, you delay, you research, and you mitigate. Is that what by the lockdown?
Yes. And in meantime, the more important one is that during the meantime, when there is a lockdown period or this thing, health system can be updated.
So we come back to what Dr. Kler said. the health systems, the lockdown has allowed the health systems to cope with the rush.
Yes.
But like Dr. Kler said, we are still seeing a rising trend in the country. So we are going to see further rise with community spread post 17th of May. No, what is this? Does it mean that we are going to be, our health system is going to be overwhelmed, or are we prepared? Dr. Gogia and Dr. Kler.
We have tried to create more beds and this thing and more facilities, but I still feel that it may be overwhelmed because the worst is yet to come. If it opens on 17th of May, beyond 17th of May.
Sunil,
quick comment from you, Dr. Kler, and then I have something for Justice Sikri.
Yeah, I think you may call me over optimistic. I'm always optimistic. I feel that though there will be increase in number of cases, and we have not really reached the flattening of the curve or the plateau of the curve, but I think for the first time I'm feeling that the government of this country has tried their best to make arrangements. So I think the country perhaps is reasonably prepared, except for the need of ventilators and things of that nature which needs to be fulfilled. So we are not too bad according to me, and I personally feel that that we have done much better than the rest of the world. I don't know the reasons, whether it is our innate immunity or whether it is because we had malaria. I don't know the reasons, but I think we are that way. We have been lucky that the things are much better in our country than the rest of the world. So the things are not that bad, but I think we definitely need to keep up with precautions and the policies of prevention very strictly, and to the extent that people who don't avoid the laws, they should be punished. Hopefully we can do that very well.
Right. So now, having understood that, the infection rate is high, the death rate is not as bad, but still the morbidity, you can be left with disability. The courts are overwhelmed with crowds. The whole system is being challenged by this virus. So I have a question for Justice Sikri, which has also come up in the audience questions as well. Some of things have come up. So that given that there is a high infection rate, given that the morbidity post-infection can be very high, and given that our legal system is anyway burdened with a huge number of cases, what do you see happening that by enforcing strict safety measures which are required, which can't be compromised, what do you think is the opportunity before the legal system, and how do you think it panning out, sir? So Justice Sikri, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mittal. First of all, let me congratulate Mr. K.C. Mittal and his team for organizing this webinar. As Bar Council of Delhi, I think it was their duty, it was their function to have such a seminar or webinar and to discuss about the safety and health of their own community, because it is the lawyers and this body which represents all the lawyers in Delhi. And so therefore it is a very, very welcome step which the Bar Council of Delhi has taken. So my congratulations to all the organizers and for that. And I again congratulate Mr. Mittal and his team for another thing, that while conceptualizing this of health and safety of the lawyers, not only during lockdown but beyond also, they have been able to take the, I would say, guidance and assistance and the wisdom of three very, very celebrated luminaries in medical field. And it was really a treat to listen to all three of you. Of course, in the beginning, Mr. Mittal, Mr. Rathi and Mr. Prakash Sharma, they told you about the peculiar problems which the lawyers would have because of the court functioning. I need not repeat all that. But then keeping in mind that and revolving around that, how brilliantly you have been able to give so many suggestions. Now, you see, one thing which, I would say, from this COVID, COVID-19, how it is impacting all of us. I'll come to legal profession and the question which you have put, because before answering that question, this background or this introduction may be necessary. You see, I perceive that it is in 3 ways COVID-19 is impacting. It is impacting the lives of people. The people are dying. It is impacting the livelihood of persons. There are many persons who are getting jobless and who are laid off. And of course, whether they are, and in business, their business are stopped. Self-employed, like professionals, like advocates, when they don't have work, since the courts are not functioning, or they are functioning with very, not only urgent matter, very, very urgent matters to video conferencing, on which I will come. And third is lifestyle, which we have talked about, that our lifestyle has totally changed. And it is not changed for present. It may change even beyond lockdown also, like maintaining social distancing, hygiene, etc., which we have now, I would say we have started learning all over again, because our ethos, at least in Indian culture, etc., has always been about these hygiene and what we have been practicing. But we had forgotten because of, as you people rightly pointed out, because of materialistic world in which we started living in. And as Dr. Kler also said, that this COVID-19 has given us some messages also, that, and we are introspecting now, the nature is rebooting itself, and there are some positive aspects as well. But therefore, lives, livelihood and lifestyle, these 3 things are greatly impacted. And keeping in view all these things, we have to, of course, as far as lives are concerned, today it is at least happily in the context of India, that the mortality rate is much, much less than in other countries. It may be for some reason which you have disclosed, and I have one more reason in my mind, which I'll come to. And of course, you have hinted about that as well, but I'll emphasize on that. And but yes, today we don't have a vaccine for this. We have to live with this virus like we have lived with other viruses also, as you rightly pointed about other viruses, which is SARS, etc., H1N1. And at that time, mortality rate of also those viruses was much, much higher. So therefore, I don't think we can conceive or conceptualize, they think of a situation where coronavirus goes forever once the vaccine is there. Maybe it remains, but the only peculiar aspect of this is, this disease is that it is very contagious. And because of that, our lifestyle is going to change, even if the lockdown is not there, even if we find the vaccine, even if we come back to the olden days of normal activities, etc. Still, that lifestyle we will have to adopt. Now, keeping in view all these 3 parameters, now when we come to the health and safety of lawyers, as was rightly pointed out by all 3 worthy lawyers, that how the courts function, we are overcrowded. We have so many cases in our system. Actually, to tell, I think the doctors know about this, but if I tell the areas, there are 3 crores cases pending in Indian courts. 3 crores. And sometimes it was said that, look, it may take, to clear these areas may take hundreds of years, maybe 100, 200 years, if we have to clear these areas. And there have been, for the last 20 years, there have been discussions about reforming the judiciary, reforming the legal system in order to take care of these areas. And for that, we need a proper case management, proper court management, etc. Now, in this whole scenario, as was pointed out by Mr. Rathi also, in respect of that paperless courts, which Delhi started about, today we have 8 or 9 or maybe 12 paperless courts. So in those courtrooms, the judges only have computers and all files are in computer. They don't have single paper. Of course, still the lawyers on the other side have not been able to adapt. There are very few lawyers I know who come to the court with their iPad or their laptop, and they also argue from the files, e-files. But then most of the advocates are bringing the files in the court. Now, and as Mr. Rathi also pointed out about the video conferencing, which has been going on and very successfully insofar as remands of the prisoners are concerned under trials. Now, I tell you, I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes in explaining this process. What happens when there is an under trial and in the sense that some case is filed, FIR is filed against a person and he is arrested. He has not been convicted so far. A trial would go on where it will be determined whether he has committed that crime or not. But then during this period, in order to, because as per law, after the arrest, within 24 hours of his arrest, he has to be produced before the magistrate. So, but magistrate will normally remand them. We call it police remand, where because the police officer has to further investigate, and therefore he needs the custody. And after that, sometime it may be a judicial remand where the person is sent to the jail. Now, this remand may be extended from time to time. For this, initially about 10 years ago, it started. So it's a long time. It started almost 10 years ago, this video conferencing system. Otherwise, what used to happen, hundreds of such under trials every day would be brought to the courts in buses by the policemen. And I have myself visited Tihar jail and have seen the procedure which has to be followed because of safety, because no prisoner should run away, etc., should not escape. And at 3 o'clock, they start preparing the food because the prisoners prepare for other prisoners who have to go. And then their attendance, jail, so many, police personnel would be then accompanying them in so many vans to the courts, and it will take 1 minute, 2 minutes for each. They are normally taken after lunch, these cases at 2 o'clock, and after remand, they would be brought back. All this was taken care of by video conferencing, that they are in jail and the judge is sitting on video conferencing and that remand process takes place. But then actually I had written one article also which was published in a newspaper, and what Dr. Kler was saying, almost the same thing, that look, this coronavirus there's some silver lining also. In respect of our legal system, I said that it has thrown up a big opportunity for us to bring the judicial reforms and to bring the this legal reforms. And what was said by others as well, that look, it is not only the cases which are pending in the court, the way we manage the cases, which we call court management and case management. I need not state in detail, but it's a fact. And I am saying with some sense of authority or sense of responsibility as a judge for 20 years, and we have been privy to all these systems. This computerization or technology can bring much desired reforms in the form of case management and court management, which can take care of arrears also in big way. And therefore, but up to now, the progress was slow. Judges were reluctant. Maybe, as was rightly pointed out, at this age, normally we don't want to learn new things, and why I should bother about the technology. I have files with me, so I'll do according to the. So are the lawyers. So that reluctance, but now it has become a compulsion. This corona has thrown that compulsion. So therefore, one way during lockdown, we have no alternative at all but to run the courts only through video conference. But what is happening at the same time? On the one hand, we have, of course, video conferencing and all at that is said, the problems of crowding, etc., which have to be taken care of. So therefore, and as of today, since there is a lockdown, there's video conferencing, but we have not only urgent matters. Normally, when the courts are, we have vacations, that during vacation also judges sit and have their these matters, urgent matters, but even those are filtered. We have most urgent matters which can't be delayed for a day or 2 days also. Only those matters are heard. And as was rightly pointed out by Mr. Mittal and Mr. Rathi, that other cases are at the back burner and the arrears are rising on that. Of course, steps are taken by the courts and Supreme Court has also passed the order. But again, we come back to same thing, that it is through video conferencing. Now, question that arises is, as Dr. Kler also pointed out, and I think Dr. Gogia also, that their friend who was going to US, one of you two, and in so many conferences, and then today he is able to attend those conferences through video conferencing sitting. Today we have organized, Bar Council has organized maybe 400, 500 persons or maybe more who are listening to this, all sitting in their home. Mr. Mittal didn't have to make arrangement for some auditorium and our tea, etc., and paraphernalia of 20-30 people who will take care of the visitors coming back. All that is taken care of. So see the amount of saving in money. But therefore, coming back to this, what I feel is, first thing, even now we are talking beyond lockdown. First thing, if we have to, what I have gathered from the problems which are told by the three distinguished lawyers and the eminent jury of these doctors, the problem which they have suggested, and one thing which has come from them also, that technology is needed. So therefore, we don't have to feel shy. Even after this, if we at least, let us see, if not today, maybe after 6 months, after 1 year, normalcy returns. But still, there would not be a problem to have some kinds of cases through video conferencing. Like we have e-courts, we can have video conferencing courts also. If not the entire court, 2 courts, 3 courts, video conferencing, and what kind of matters can be taken so that they take care of so much of savings of cost, etc. And how the worked out, how it was suggested, or the problem was discussed, that how Mr. Sharma, I remember, said how witnesses would be examined and some problems, etc., how a person would go to his house, all those things. But that can be taken care of by, I'm giving one example. In the end, from my personal experience also, after retirement, I'm doing arbitrations. I'm doing few international arbitrations also. Now, there in arbitration world, such examination of witnesses have been taking place through video conferencing for a number of years. And there are certain rules which are framed in order to ensure that the evidence by video conferencing is impeccable and it doesn't suffer from any loopholes. Those, if one goes through the rules which are framed by ICC, LCIA, Singapore International Arbitration Center, all those big centers, and they take care of all these aspects. So that can be imbibed even in the judicial system as well. And therefore, the first thing which I would say is that if we have to, even in future, when we go out, and we have to be with our mask and all those steps which have to be taken, of course, of personal hygiene, etc., have to be there. But then the way you are saying that even files may carry the, these virus, and which may be there for long time, why not get rid of this? At least, so we can have e-conference, e-courts, we can have video conferencing courts. And it is the need of the hour. And as it is said that necessity is the mother of invention, here necessity has become the mother of innovation. It is not invention. We already have the technology, but now we are giving the incentive to innovate it and to do it in this way. And it was very rightly pointed out by the speakers that, look, we have to ensure that the courts are not crowded even after that. One thing was that litigants should not court, very good suggestion. And in order to take care, 2 or 3 high courts which have done, Bombay, Kerala, they have already done, and other high courts as well, there is going to be live streaming of the proceedings. So if I am a litigant and I am not allowed, and if there is a live streaming, I can sit at my home and see how, when my case is taken up and how it is going on. So that live streaming can take care of the litigants also, those who want to watch what their cases are. And as well as less number of cases, it's a good suggestion, but then less number of cases on the one hand, and the difficulty of struggling with the arrears on the other hand is going to create problem. In the beginning, for few months, we have to have less number of cases, even if the lockdown, so long as this pandemic remains. But there I have another suggestion, how this can be done. Even with less number of cases, in order to ensure that there are not many advocates who come, even if there are 10 or 15 cases, they are not coming at the same time. If there are only today, every commonly has 40, 50, 60 matters. So in the beginning at 10:30, if I have a case in a court, I'll reach the court, even whether my case reaches at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. But I have to be there at 10:30 because I don't know when my case will be taken up. And therefore, it leads to overcrowding. So why not these should be staggered? Out of those 10 or 15 cases, say first 3 cases would be taken from 10:30 to 11. So advocates only for first 3 cases are allowed in limited manner. Then next 4 to 7 or 8 cases would be taken from 11:30 to 12:30. So timings are fixed during that one hour, and therefore not all persons are coming at the same time. As far as judges are concerned, I remember now from 6th, I think April, Singapore also declared this lockdown. But before 6th April, because there the problem started much earlier than us, but they have been able to contain. Of course, they have much less population also, and they don't have those kinds of problems which we have of poverty, illiteracy, and so much of people. This density of population here per kilometer is much more than in those countries. But at the same time, I saw what they started doing when they were taking precautions and the courts were functioning. Out of the 2 judges in Supreme Court who were sitting, one was sitting in the chamber and the other judge was sitting in the courtroom. And on video conferencing, the other judge who was sitting in the chamber was participating. And they are also maintaining social distance. And of course, in Supreme Court and High Courts, there is not much of a problem as far as litigants are concerned. There is a sufficient difference, at least 2 or 3 meters distance is there. So therefore, even judges were not sitting with each other. I am a judge, international judge in Singapore International Commercial Court. We had one hearing on 1st April, and we had 3 judges. One judge was from Singapore, I from India sitting in Delhi, and 3rd judge from UK. He was in London. So we 3 judges through video conferencing sat at 3 different places. One of the parties was from Singapore. At that time, court was open. It was 1st April because, as I said, from 6th April, they have started through video conferencing, etc. But this was from video conferencing. One lawyer who was representing a party in Singapore appeared in the court. That Singapore judge sat in the court. Other party was from Malaysia. So he appeared from Kuala Lumpur and the hearing took place. So therefore, it is a time, and I will appeal to the legal community that we have to upskill and learn more skills if we have not learned. Of course, I also didn't have, I have been doing all this for last few years, but was in last 20 days or 30 days, I have been able to hone my skills in so many ways because I tell you, as a arbitrator now, every day, so many mails are coming in the cases which are pending, and we have to reply, and we have started even video conferencing cases also. But what I say at the end is that, look, all these aspects which you have stated, and which are really one thing which is very important message which all the 3 doctors have given, is that how hospitals function. Of course, in India, hospitals are also overcrowded. And another problem, as far as doctors are concerned, they are much more vulnerable than the lawyers, because doctors know that they are confronted with, or in their presence, some patient is there. When I am sitting with somebody, he may not necessarily be with patient, but you are encountering yourself, or you are coming in touch with a patient only. So you don't know at that time with what disease he is suffering or she is suffering. So you are taking all those precautions, and what I need not repeat that. So those precautions, including about dress, etc., are needed. Of course, it is an archaic British system that we had these gowns and other things. And I really commend Bar Council of India that they are going to take this step. In America, it all started from Britain. Even in Britain, it is not followed today. Of course, they wear gown, and even today they wear in some of the courts wig also. But then I think they will dispense with this as well. But then don't have these necessarily these bands and other black coat and all others. Maybe on whatever suit they wear, they can wear gown over this. The same I have seen in Singapore. In America, this was dispensed with long ago. So it is high time that there's nothing, and as very rightly pointed out, that we are criticized कि वो काले कोट से और सफेद कोट से बचो, at least that would not be there. Now, I would say ultimately at that it has thrown a very big challenge as far as legal fraternity is concerned. Challenges are physical challenges, challenges are economic challenges, and as Mr. Mittal rightly pointed out, he gave the hint about depression, etc. Challenges are psychological challenges also. There are all advocates in this, our community are also not all top notch and all rich that they can take care of themselves for years together, even if they don't earn. We have larger community, this lawyers community, those who earn every day and then their household is run. So in this 40 days, 50 days, many who would be suffering because of no earning during this period, and financially as well. And what I would say is that, look, there are 6 lessons I read somewhere which this COVID has given us. One is, anything can happen to anyone at any time. That is, and therefore embracing life's uncertainty is the greatest adventure, for it opens us infinite possibilities. So we should be prepared for the worst. Secondly, patience is virtue, and we have to be patient in that sense. So there are something that are beyond our control, and best thing is to ride it out and let it run its course. Maintain positive attitude. Third is, no plan is bad plan, which means it is better to have something than not having anything at all. And that is what we have been discussing. That is what the medical profession, and I salute the medical profession, that today you are our gods. You are taking care of this COVID. When as it is very rightly said, when all temples or mosques or churches which we feel are their gods are living there, they are all closed, but it is only hospitals which have become the temples and which are running. Then, so therefore some plans is needed. Fourth thing is stated is, reprioritize to focus on what's important. We have to think of how we prioritize our preferences now in view of this. Fifth is that procrastination makes things difficult. We can't just sit over it. We can't procrastinate. And sixth is, foresight can make things easy. So we have to foresight, and that there, as far as disease is concerned or this pandemic is concerned, it is only doctors who can tell us. But as far as legal system is concerned, we have to think ourselves and see what is there going to be in future. And therefore, I would say at the end, my message, and taking care of all, I mean, in a way, summing up what has been said by all, is that during lockdown, and this is what Mr. K.C. Mittal also said, that we are there for 40 days doing nothing and all that, watching TV. And one suggestion was given by all the doctors, that exercise. But we can, and I'm saying from personal experience, we can utilize this time in a much better way also. Yes, one thing is that people can be glued to TV, can see all kinds of movies, etc. But then we can read good books. Lawyers can hone their skills by, suppose I am weak in some subject of law, why not read those books and other books also, not only those books. And other thing which I would say is that catch up with your hobbies, what you like more, do that activity, because that would, doctors know better, because that would wean away the depression, and it will instill in us good feelings. And I tell you again, from I'm saying in front of all, I normally have been doing my exercises, physical exercises, for maybe 30-40 minutes every day for last maybe 20 years, 25, 30 years. And but it is increased to 80 to 90 minutes. I have so much time. I may be doing in the morning, I am doing in the evening also. And it is not only physical, yes, some yoga. And another thing which is more important is one lesson which I have learned from all what they said. You see, coronavirus may affect everybody and anybody, but then those who have stronger immunity, they can ward off. And even if they get, they can come out easily. So we have to develop, we have to, that is what I said, that I'll be saying, although it is said, but not in this manner, that we have to make our immunity strong. And for that, not only yoga, and a part of yoga, which is pranayama, we have to do that, and we should do. And insofar as food is also concerned, I have been reading so much and on social media, other things, that what are the foods, and we today find that Indian foods are best in that. What are the foods which you should take which increase your immunity level? From tulsi tea to our, herbs and what other kinds of foods, etc. So why not look into all those and take these kinds of healthy meals? And spirituality also, according to me, plays a very, very important role. I had written another article, because I'm utilizing time in that. So one article, as I said, I had written that how Corona is now today gives us an opportunity to bring legal reforms. It is, I think, in bar and bench also. But other article which I had written, which was published last Sunday in a newspaper, that how today are the times we can learn and we can imbibe and we can practice spirituality in legal profession. What is the connect between spirituality and legal profession? Of course, it is always there in medical profession, but it can be in legal profession also. I have written in detail on that. So we have to be spiritual. And in that sense, I tell you, we have to develop compassion. And here compassion, today's program itself is a program out of compassion, because the Bar Council has thought of the lawyers and their safety. But what I will urge upon the Bar Council here is that take care of, we have learned compassion. Not today, we have become much more generous, everybody, that those mazdoors or laborers who are now not able to earn, and we are providing food to them, we are donating, etc. Everybody has become, at least is trying to do whatever it can, how much contribution we are giving to PM Cares Fund. So why not, here we are talking of our own community. Within, as I said, that everybody may not be that rich. So within our community, those are in need of money. Bar Council has in past also taken wonderful steps in that behalf. If you remember, and I think it was started by Mr. K.C. Mittal only when he was earlier chairman, that it was requested that when the on Wakalatnama stamps is there, there should be on Advocates Welfare Fund also, 10 rupees, 20 rupees, etc., whatever.
Can I just interrupt?
So, yes.
For your information, even now we have disbursed almost nearly 2.4 crores of rupees. We have done it in April itself to more than 5,000 advocates. We have done it.
This is really commendable. I didn't know that. So you are already doing it. Hats off to you, because we have to take care of the people of our community. And see, ultimately, it's maintaining a balance. On the one hand, it's a balance between lives and livelihood. Taking aid of lifestyle, which I said, because we have to, but then at the same time, we have to save livelihood also. And for that, we have to change our lifestyle. And this lifestyle includes all these, which the worthy speakers have stated, the 3 doctors have really enlightened us in whatever measures which are necessary. I think they are the need of the hour. That is what I will say, Dr. Mittal, subject to any other questions which you want to put.
Thank you, sir. I think that's been very enlightening, because it is covered a huge landscape of thought, of action. It's covered sort of the whole, everything that's required. And sir, you rightly said, this is an opportunity for personal as well as professional growth. Within this storm of Corona, there is an opportunity for growth. And I think everybody would agree with you that it is giving an opportunity to the whole legal system to actually change some things which are going slow on, which in your sutras, which you mentioned, procrastination being not the ideal thing, which was procrastinated upon. And this is the time which has come to implement. We have seen so many government policies that have been implemented in, I'm aware of the telemedicine policy, because that is linked to technology, which was pending for 3 years, which was drafted, but then it was brought out in 2 weeks. So there is action. So similarly, there can be so many changes. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us. We have a young lawyer here with us, Mrinal Kanwar. She has her concerns about young lawyers. Some of them, I think most of them have been addressed, but there may be some she has, which she can quickly run through. Then, since there is one question pending, that's about mental health issues, I'll take just a couple of moments on that. and then we'll come back to a quick closing remarks from everybody, and then lastly from Justice Sikri, and then back to Mr. K.C. Mittal. We'll try and do it in the next 10 minutes. So Mrinal, what do you have to say as a young lawyer? What are the challenges which young lawyers are facing? Well, most of it has been said, but I'm sure as a young lawyer, there's some things, uncertainties or whatever, which are which young people, young professionals are facing. Whether lawyers are one, because this is the Delhi Bar Council, all young professionals across IT, other sectors, they're facing problems. What are peculiar to the young lawyers?
Thank you, Dr. Mittal. Good afternoon, Honorable Justice Sikri and my esteemed panelists. Well, most of it has already been covered by all of you all so far. We've discussed what are the infrastructural and procedural safety measures which have to be taken in courts. And then Mr. K.C. Mittal and Justice Sikri have also spoken about the health measures, which us lawyers should be taking on a daily basis to come out of this pandemic stronger. And I think this is where young lawyers are hard hit the most, because most young independent litigators, they depend on their day-to-day earnings to run their households. And since courts have been shut for almost 6 weeks now, it is they who are very, very adversely affected. So like Honorable Justice Sikri pointed it out, the seniors in the profession should reach out to their juniors, current and ex-juniors, and offer them help in whatever way they can. Apart from that, one suggestion that I would have is maybe the Bar Council could collaborate with experts and offer a helpline of sorts to lawyers who could reach out in times of stress and anxiety. As it is, lawyers, they experience stress, anxiety, and they don't like to talk about these things because lawyers never want to talk about their weaknesses. But now is the time to introspect and reach out for help. And this can be done by all the ways which have been suggested by all our esteemed panelists here. And with that, in fact, Dr. Mittal, I would like to pose this question back to you. What is it that we can do to improve our mental health, to become more resilient, to get past this pandemic stronger? So I would like to ask you that.
Thank you, Mrinal, for your quick comments and for sticking to time. Thank you for that. See, since the mental health issues have come up, and being a psychiatrist, I cannot help but answer those questions that have come up. To get it into perspective, mental health issues are common. Almost 15% of our general population has got mental health problems, which are severe, which can be diagnosable. Which means at least 15% of doctors and 50% of lawyers have got mental health problems. So somebody who already has a mental health problem, like say, it need not be a madness, psychosis is not what we're talking about. Anxiety, stress, depression, obsessive compulsive disorders, and so on. People who already have some pre-existing disease, it has worsened in Corona time. This is what we have seen. And undoubtedly, because anxieties are huge. And wherever there is anxiety, it leads to insomnia, it leads to depression, it leads to stress, it leads to sadness, loss of interest, loss of appetite, difficulty. Well, there can be a loss of drive to even talk to people, because let's not forget, actually social distancing is the wrong phrase. It's physical distancing. We are better connected in this today's time than we were 20 years ago. So, there's hardly any social distancing. We are connected here today. So imagine this, had it happened 20 years back, we would not be able to speak like this. So the anxieties of survival, the anxieties of, where and because of the economic impact as well. We have seen clients, patients from the health sector. We have a counseling line going up for health sector through the IMA from
I think so. We have lost his audio video. I think so. He'll be back. Sanjay sir, what your thoughts on preparing some helpline for the lawyers who are under stress, or can Bar Council of India and take some initiatives? K.C. Mittal sir also.
I'm back here.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir, that you will be better able to answer Casey Mittal, sir. Can there be a helpline or something for?
No, we'll do that. There's no problem. It's a good idea, and I would like Dr. Mittal and others help on that. We'll definitely have a kind of panel on this because it's a very good thing which we should do it, and we'll do that. And
so all three of us are available to assist the Bar Council in this.
We will, I welcome the idea. It's a wonderful thing which you have given to us, and we'll do it. We can do it today, tomorrow, any day. Just give it. We'll definitely. It's a wonderful thing to do.
So thank you. And since what I was saying was that we have seen young lawyers and elder lawyers also come in with problems of alcohol and substances, which is common because let's face it, it is there. So while in lockdown, as has been said, and an eminent person like Justice Sikri has emphasized and given example from personal life that exercise, temperance, yoga, pranayama, looking after your health, looking after your diet, looking after your nutrition, immunity. If you want your immune system to be stronger, it sounds like old, grandmother's advice, but that's what it is. Good sleep, wholesome, good, hygienic food, staying away from alcohol, tobacco, other drugs, and exercise, and having a positive attitude to life. These are all important for a well-functioning immune system. And the only thing that can help you ride through this storm is an immune system. Nobody is going to give me health. The government is not going to give me health. I am responsible for my health. And health here includes mental health as well. So watch out in case there is any sign of anxiety, depression, you feel, you can't cope, there is insomnia, or you feel that somebody around you is going through this because there's loss of work, there's loss of opportunity, you're confined in a home, then please reach out. It's time you spoke to somebody in your family. It's time you spoke to some friend. And if that doesn't work, speak to a professional because we are all available there to help. And in that sense, the Bar Council, if it sets up a helpline. Now, having said this, so the positive effects of lockdown have been emphasized as the environmental impact. Environmental is rebooting. Earth has come back. We have seen images of animals. We have seen Jamuna and Ganga have cleaned. You don't require crores and crores to clean them. But the only thing you need to do is stop polluting them. There is opportunity for personal growth. There is opportunity for emotional growth. Your families, you can bond, use this time, bond with the families. That's what we have seen. And people are enjoying it. People who have never played games together, board games, indoor games, they're playing games. And also, it is like I said, there's time to rethink life. Replot your life, replot the country's life, replot your profession's life, and for the Bar Council to replot the life of lawyers who are members of this Bar Council. And with this, one quick comment. Please stick to 1 minute to each one of the participants, then Justice Sikri, and then Mr. Mittal.
Can I start, Sunil?
Yes, please, but very brief, please.
See,
we are out of time already. We are out of time. We are on bonus time.
Right. I want to thank all of you and particularly Justice Saab that he has, quoted doctors as gods. But I also want to request him and the other bar members to understand that we have a right to have a safe working environment. The doctors are beaten. The nursing homes are broken. So some kind of stringent laws permanently have to be made for the safety of the healthcare workers. The second quick question is that many private hospitals, nursing homes, they have laid their many health workers, particularly at a lower level. All major corporate hospitals, they have cut salaries up to 50%. Is it why the doctors actually, to my mind, all these corporate hospitals have made money on why? Because doctors are working, the healthcare people are working, they are expanding. But when a situation first time has come, when the doctors are putting their life into danger, rather than giving them some hazard bhatta, they have cut their salary. So you think it is legally and ethically correct or not? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kler, for these comments. Dr. Gogia.
Yeah, 4 lines again. कभी ना कहो कि अपने दिन खराब हैं, समझ लो कि हम कांटों से घिरे गुलाब हैं, रखो हौसला वो मंजर भी आएगा, थक कर न बैठ है मंजिल के मुसाफिर, मंजिल भी मिलेगी और जीने का मजा भी आएगा.
क्या बात है अनूप, ये तो like always.
Patience.
Right. Yes, Anoop has always got this, और जैसा आपने अनूप कहा कि वो भी एक है ना कि शाखाएं रहीं तो पत्ते भी फूल भी आएंगे, शाखाएं रहीं तो पत्ते भी फूल भी आएंगे, ये दिन बुरे हैं तो अच्छे भी आएंगे,
जरूर आएंगे.
So the only thing is we need to ride it out and survive. So thank you, Anoop, for this. And Mrinal, any quick comments from you?
No, sir. I have wrapped up whatever I had to convey.
Thank you.
Sanjay ji, aapke koi comments, quick comments?
Our council.
Yes, sir. It was. I personally felt enriched with the views of all the panelists. Justice Sikri has given us a broad way of maintaining the life, and all these views which I have just got it, this enrichment will be shared with the legal fraternity people, and that will help us in moving our life forward.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. So back to you, Justice Sikri, sir, for your last winding up.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil Mittal. My message is almost the same which you people have said, and in your Sharana Andaz would say what Dr. Anoop has also mentioned. So therefore, my message to the legal fraternity is that in this hard times, so-called hard times, don't think it that way. Don't lose your self-esteem. And self-esteem means accepting yourself what you are. So once you accept yourself, what you are, then you try to improve. Then you become an epitome of humility and you accept what you are. I give you one anecdote only, which would take 30-40 seconds. A very interesting. It is about that famous comedian who's English comedian who's that movies, mute movies used to come at that time. What was his name? Charlie Chaplin. Now there was one, because he was so famous, there was one competition of who looks like Charlie Chaplin. So he saw that competition going on. He also went there and he participated. And you know, he came at number 7. A real Charlie Chaplin was not number 1. So his other look like were number 1, 2, and 3 were adjudged like that. So therefore, life is like that. So don't, try to brave it. And this, as this message, which is from the entire discussion, is that have positive attitude and turn these difficult times into an opportunity and make a most use of it for the betterment of yourself, your community as. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Sikri, sir, because those are very wise words, and coming from you, they have a huge meaning and value for everybody in the legal profession and in the medical profession. I think for everybody at large. Thank you, sir, for those words of wisdom.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we have had such a good discussion.
They want 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yes, K.C. Mittal, sir, your last thought.
1 minute. I think I must thank all the panelists, and the discussion must be, and it must reach most of the lawyers and help them out. Let us create helpline. If possible, Dr. Mittal can help us, because we would like to have spread it like anything. The lawyers can consult. One more thing which I want to tell you is, and all of us must understand, that now the centrally air-conditioned buildings, there is already a finding to that effect that they are prone to spread of coronavirus. And High Court has already passed an order to that effect. Centrally air-conditioned building of the High Court, the system is going to be changed. There are steps being taken by the High Court committee. I would request that all the centrally air-conditioned buildings, everybody should look at that, see, because they are responsible for a spread. It has to go with the caution, and we have to take care of it. Thanks to all of you, and let us work together. It won't stop. It's just a beginning. That's where we start with Dr. Mittal. Thank you very much, and Dr.
Very true.
Kler and all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
No,
our
Dr.
esteemed
Mittal,
panelists.
as a moderator, you have done a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, our esteemed panelists. Hope this webinar will have a constructive steps will be taken by Bar Council for the benefit of legal fraternity. I would like to thank our law school partners, Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, KEP University and Ansal University for providing their support. I would like to call our panelists on behalf of Bar Council of Delhi and Managing Editor of latestlaws.com, Riya Rathi and our team. Thank you for joining this webinar. Our next webinar will be on what ails our criminal justice system. With this, I would like to wrap up this session. Stay at home, stay safe. Thank you. Thank you, Lordship, for joining today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.